Amidst the chaos of the Oakridge County Fair, 7-year-old Layla Freeman bursts through the crowd, tears streaming down her face, directly toward a group of weathered, leather-clad white bikers gathered near their motorcycles. She tugs desperately at the sleeve of Victor "Storm" Calloway, the imposing leader of the Thunderbolt Brotherhood. The crowd freezes, expecting trouble, as Layla screams words that will change everything. "Please help me. They took my brother and nobody believes me." What happens in the next 72 hours will shatter prejudices, expose a criminal network within local law enforcement, and unite a divided town in ways nobody could have imagined. Layla stands trembling before Victor, her small fingers still clutching his leather jacket as fairground music plays eerily in the background. "My brother Elijah, he was right there by the ring toss, and then these two men came up to him saying they were police but not in uniforms and took him away," she explains between hiccuping sobs. "I told the security guard, but he just told me to stop making up stories and find my mom." Victor exchanges glances with the 6 other Thunderbolt Brotherhood members surrounding him. Marcus Bear Johnson, a former Army medic with arms covered in tattoos; Ray Diesel Parker, whose massive frame blocks the afternoon sun; Sophia Raven Chen, the only female member with piercing eyes that miss nothing; Felix Ghost Rodriguez, whose quiet demeanor masks a genius with technology; David Preacher Williams, a reformed addict who found redemption on the road; and Lucas Irish O'Connor, the youngest member with something to prove. Victor kneels to Layla's level, his weathered face softening despite decades of hardening against a world that judged him by his appearance. "Slow down, little one. How old is your brother, and what was he wearing?" The question triggers a fresh wave of tears as Layla describes 12-year-old Elijah in his favorite blue NASA shirt and red sneakers. As the conversation continues, the biker's expressions grow increasingly troubled. Victor had sworn to the judge after his release that the Thunderbolt Brotherhood would stay clean, avoid trouble, and focus solely on charity rides and veteran support. His 5 years in prison for a crime he didn't commit had cost him everything: his career as a digital security consultant, his marriage, and his relationship with his only brother Malcolm, who never believed in his innocence. Ray pulls Victor aside, his voice low with concern. "Storm, this isn't our business. We should find security or actual cops." Victor watches as a black woman frantically pushes through the crowd, clearly searching for someone. "That's my mom," Layla shouts, waving desperately. Tanya Freeman rushes to her daughter, pulling her protectively away from the bikers. "Layla, where have you been? I've been looking everywhere." Her suspicious gaze falls on Victor and his crew. "What's going on here? What do you want with my daughter?" Before Victor can explain, Layla blurts out, "Mommy, they took Elijah. The fake police took him." Tanya's expression shifts from suspicion to terror as she fumbles for her phone to call 911. Within minutes, Officer Daniels arrives, a young white officer whose demeanor changes visibly when he spots the Thunderbolt Brotherhood. His hand instinctively moves closer to his weapon. "Mrs. Freeman, please step away from these." "Gentlemen," he says, emphasizing the last word with thinly veiled contempt. As Tanya explains the situation, Officer Daniels' expression remains impassive. "Kids wander off at fairs all the time, ma'am. I'm sure your son is just enjoying himself somewhere. How long has he been missing?" When Tanya says 30 minutes, the officer barely conceals his impatience. "That's hardly missing. We can't file a report until 24 hours have passed." Sophia steps forward, her calm voice contrasting with the tension. "Officer," the girl says, "men claiming to be police took her brother. Doesn't that concern you?" Officer Daniels squares his shoulders. "Ma'am, I suggest you and your friends enjoy the fair and leave police work to actual officers." Victor notices something that triggers his instincts. When Tanya mentions checking security cameras, Officer Daniels suggests they check at the security office, but upon arrival, the footage for that area conveniently shows static starting 10 minutes before Elijah's disappearance. More concerning, Victor observes Officer Daniels discreetly texting someone immediately after viewing the footage. When Felix attempts to offer technical assistance to recover the data, he's firmly refused. Outside the security office, Layla tugs at Victor's jacket again. "My brother saw something bad last night," she whispers. "At the old factory. He told me it was dangerous and to never go there." Then he took pictures with his phone. Victor exchanges meaningful glances with his crew. The abandoned Whitfield factory at the edge of town had been the subject of rumors for months. The Brotherhood makes a decision that will alter the course of many lives. "Mrs. Freeman," Victor says formally, "I understand you have no reason to trust us. But your son could be in real danger, and it seems like you're not getting the help you need from official channels. My name is Victor Calloway. Despite how we look, the Thunderbolt Brotherhood is committed to community service. We have resources, connections, and skills that might help find Elijah." Tanya studies the bikers with uncertainty, her protective arm around Layla's shoulders. "Why would you help us? You don't even know us." Victor looks at Layla's tear-stained face and answers truthfully, "Because too many people have looked the other way when someone needed help, and I know what it's like to be powerless when the system fails you." After a moment of internal struggle, Tanya nods reluctantly. The Brotherhood forms a quick plan. Marcus and Ray will canvass the fair. David and Lucas will check nearby streets and businesses. Felix will attempt to track Elijah's phone. Sophia will gather information about recent unusual activities in town, and Victor will stay with Tanya and Layla, collecting every detail about Elijah and the men who took him. None of them realize they've just stepped into a conspiracy that reaches into the highest levels of Oakridge power, or that their actions have already been noticed by those with everything to lose. The afternoon sun beats down on Oakridge as the Thunderbolt Brotherhood disperses across town, their distinctive leather vests and rumbling motorcycles drawing attention everywhere they go. At Main Street Diner, Lucas and David are met with immediate resistance when they show Elijah's photo and ask if anyone has seen him. "We don't want any trouble here," the manager says, refusing to share security footage and asking them to leave when customers begin to complain. Similar scenes play out across town as Marcus and Ray discover that business owners either claim their cameras are malfunctioning or refuse access altogether. In the predominantly white Meadowbrook neighborhood, residents peer suspiciously through curtains and two separate homeowners call the police when the bikers knock on doors asking about unusual vehicles. "Told you this would happen," Ray mutters as they remount their bikes after being warned by responding officers to stay out of the neighborhood. They see the vests and the bikes, and their minds are already made up about who we are. Meanwhile, Felix works from his laptop at a coffee shop, his fingers flying over the keyboard as he attempts to locate Elijah's phone. "Got something," he tells Victor over their secure communication channel. The phone's last active location was near Oakridge Park, but it's offline now, either dead or destroyed. By late afternoon, the first significant lead emerges when Lucas and David find Elijah's broken phone in a trash can near the park entrance. The screen is shattered, but Felix manages to recover partial text messages, "Got evidence," and "Check warehouse tonight," being the most legible fragments. Back at Tanya's modest home in the predominantly black Riverside neighborhood, Victor learns more about Elijah. He's always been observant, noticing things others miss, Tanya explains, showing Victor honor roll certificates and science fair awards. Last month, he started acting different, more secretive. He was upset about his friend Darius being arrested for supposedly breaking into cars. Tanya's voice lowers. Darius swore he was innocent, that he was being set up, but nobody believed him except Elijah. She hesitates before continuing. Elijah started recording things on his phone. He said certain officers were always hassling black teenagers in certain neighborhoods while ignoring white kids doing the same things. I told him to be careful, that paying too much attention to police business could be dangerous. Her hands tremble as she shows Victor a notebook where Elijah had documented dates, times, and names. I never thought it would lead to this. By early evening, the Brotherhood regroups at Victor's small auto repair shop on the outskirts of town, which serves as their unofficial headquarters. The picture they piece together is troubling. Multiple witnesses saw Elijah at the fair, but no one admits to seeing his apparent abduction. When Victor and Sophia visit the police station to formally report Elijah as missing, they're met with open hostility. The desk sergeant loudly announces Victor's criminal record within earshot of everyone in the lobby. "Convicted felon Victor Calloway here to report a missing person," he sneers. Officers Daniels and Harrington emerge from the back, their stance confrontational. "Interesting timing, Calloway," Officer Harrington says, a veteran cop with cold eyes and political connections. "You're suddenly concerned about missing kids just when we're investigating thefts at the fair. Maybe we should take a look at your shop, see what turns up." The threat hangs in the air. "File your report with the desk sergeant and stay out of police business, or we'll find reasons to make your life difficult. Your kind aren't welcome here." Just as the situation threatens to escalate, Sheriff Blackwell's deputy intervenes, accepting their paperwork and promising to follow proper protocols. Outside, Victor and Sophia are approached by a young man who identifies himself as a convenience store clerk from near the fairgrounds. "I saw what happened to that kid," he whispers, looking around nervously. "I got off work early and was at the fair. Saw him being taken to a car by two guys wearing jackets with police logos, but something felt off. The kid was trying to pull away." He offers his phone, showing grainy footage of Elijah being forced into an unmarked dark sedan. "I didn't want to get involved, but that kid looked scared, not like someone in trouble with real cops." This crucial evidence coincides with Felix's breakthrough. Elijah had created an encrypted cloud account where he stored recordings and photos. While they can't access everything, they recover fragments including audio of Officer Harrington speaking with businessman Preston Whitfield, mentioning merchandise shipments and problem elimination near the abandoned Lakeside Industrial Complex. A property search reveals that Whitfield Enterprises owns the complex, along with several other abandoned properties around Oakridge. By nightfall, Felix triangulates the data from Elijah's recovered messages, the convenience store footage, and cell tower information to determine that Elijah was taken in the direction of the industrial complex. The Brotherhood faces a critical decision: take their evidence to authorities who've already shown hostility or investigate themselves at significant personal risk. "We can't trust the police with this," Victor concludes after calling everyone to vote. "Not until we know which ones might be involved." As they prepare to move, Felix discovers something else on Elijah's partially recovered data: photos of shipping containers being moved at night, with unclear figures supervising the operation. The timestamp shows it was taken just the night before Elijah's disappearance. Whatever he saw, Victor says grimly, it was worth taking him to keep quiet. Night falls over Oakridge as the Thunderbolt Brotherhood converts their clubhouse into an investigation center. Maps cover walls, timelines, span whiteboards, and Felix's multiple computer screens display everything from property records to police patrol schedules. The atmosphere is tense, as Victor reveals a part of his past unknown to newer members. "Before my conviction, I worked in digital forensics," he explains, carefully examining fragments of data from Elijah's cloud account. "I specialized in recovering deleted information for corporate clients and occasionally consulted with federal agencies." Ray snorts. "And yet you couldn't prove your own innocence when they framed you for that security breach at Oakridge National Bank." Victor's jaw tightens at the painful memory. They had manufactured evidence, witness intimidation, and a prosecutor determined to make an example of someone. I was the perfect target, a black man with a motorcycle and prior arrests from my younger days. As the night progresses, they decode more of Elijah's files, uncovering disturbing connections. Whitfield Enterprises, owned by Preston Whitfield, Oakridge's wealthiest resident and major donor to political campaigns, appears frequently in Elijah's notes. The boy had methodically documented license plates, meeting times, and partial conversations recorded secretly. Most disturbing are references to packages, merchandise, and special orders, coupled with discussions of prices and transport. "This reads like human trafficking," Sophia says quietly, her background as a former social worker bringing professional insight. "The patterns match what I saw when working with victimized communities. They target vulnerable populations, especially minorities and immigrants, because they're less likely to be believed or vigorously searched for when they disappear." Their investigation is interrupted when Tanya calls Victor, her voice trembling. "I just received text messages warning me to stop looking for Elijah. They know I'm working with you. They said if I go to the authorities, I'll never see either of my children again." Before Victor can respond, Felix alerts them to breaking news. Two Brotherhood members, Lucas and David, have been arrested on assault charges. According to the police statement, they attacked a security guard at Westside Mall while causing disturbances and intimidating shoppers. Security footage aired on local news shows only the guard's reaction, not what precipitated it. That's edited footage, Felix declares, after analyzing the broadcast. Look at the timestamp jumps. They're hiding something. With 2 members in jail and pressure mounting, Victor makes a difficult decision. He drives to the affluent Highland Park neighborhood and parks his motorcycle outside a modernist house he hasn't visited in 5 years. Malcolm Calloway opens the door in expensive loungewear, his expression hardening at the sight of his brother. 5 years without a word, and now you show up at midnight, he says coldly. What kind of trouble are you in this time? Inside Malcolm's immaculate home, with its law degrees and professional awards prominently displayed, Victor explains the situation. Malcolm's initial dismissal turns to reluctant interest as Victor presents the evidence they've gathered. You realize how this looks, Malcolm says, examining Elijah's recovered files. A convicted felon and his biker gang investigating respected business leaders and police officers based on a child's amateur sleuthing. Victor's patience snaps. That child was taken in broad daylight after documenting something that made him a threat. 2 of my people are sitting in jail on trumped-up charges because we're getting close to something. You didn't believe me when I said I was innocent before. Has anything changed, brother? The question hangs between them, weighted with years of estrangement. Finally, Malcolm sighs. I'll represent your friends and file emergency motions in the morning, but I'm doing this for the missing boy and his mother, not for you. Meanwhile, Sophia approaches Catherine Williams, editor of the struggling Oakridge Chronicle, with selected evidence. The middle-aged journalist initially dismisses the biker's claims as sensationalism. Do you know how many conspiracy theories I hear each week? Everyone thinks they've uncovered some grand plot. Her skepticism wavers when shown the convenience store footage and audio recordings. I've had 3 immigrant families come to me in the past year about missing children, she admits reluctantly. Cases that were dismissed as runaways despite contrary evidence. I could never find enough concrete proof to publish anything. As word spreads through Oakridge's tight-knit black community about Elijah's disappearance and the Brotherhood's involvement, volunteers begin offering assistance. Retired security guards, computer specialists, and even teenagers who know Oakridge's hidden paths and shortcuts join the effort. Simultaneously, concern grows in predominantly white neighborhoods about criminal biker gang activity, with social media groups organizing neighborhood watches and demanding increased police presence. The racial divide of Oakridge becomes increasingly visible as the search continues. By morning, an unexpected development. Sheriff Thomas Blackwell returns from a law enforcement conference in the state capitol. Unlike the openly hostile officers Daniels and Harrington, Sheriff Blackwell has cultivated a reputation for professionalism since his election 6 months ago. He contacts Victor directly, requesting a private meeting at a truck stop outside town limits. I've been reviewing reports filed during my absence, Blackwell says when they meet, his expression unreadable. A missing child, 2 arrested bikers, and unusual patrol assignments around abandoned properties. Care to tell me what's happening in my county? Victor studies the man carefully, weighing his options. With respect, Sheriff, how do I know you're not part of the problem? Blackwell's eyes narrow slightly. You don't. But if I were involved in whatever you're suggesting, would we be having this conversation, or would you be joining your friends in lockup? After careful consideration, Victor shares selected information, gauging Blackwell's reactions. The sheriff's response is measured. I can't officially sanction civilian investigation, nor can I provide resources based on speculation, but I can ensure patrol cars avoid certain areas tonight due to budget constraints, and I might accidentally leave some department vehicle tracking information accessible during system maintenance. As they part ways, Blackwell adds, for the record, Calloway, I reviewed your case last month. There were irregularities that should have been flagged during trial. Remember that not everyone with a badge is your enemy. The Brotherhood now faces critical decisions about their next moves, with Elijah's time potentially running out and powerful forces mobilizing against them. The Whitfield Foundation annual charity gala, transforms the historic Oakridge Grand Hotel into a showcase of wealth and influence. Crystal chandeliers illuminate a sea of designer gowns and bespoke suits as Oakridge's elite gather to support Preston Whitfield's philanthropic ventures while enjoying $500 per-plate cuisine. Victor adjusts his borrowed tuxedo, feeling the wire against his skin and the concealed microphone in his cufflink. "Stop fidgeting," Malcolm mutters beside him, nodding graciously to a judge across the room. "You're supposed to be my security consultant, not a nervous teenager at prom." Following the Brotherhood's rapidly evolving plan, Malcolm had secured last-minute invitations by offering a substantial donation, bringing Victor, Sophia, and Ray as his security team following recent concerns about public events. Felix monitors everything from a van parked 3 blocks away, connected to their discreet earpieces and the listening devices they plan to plant throughout Whitfield's private areas of the hotel. "Security is heavier than expected," Felix reports, as Victor scans the room. 4 visible guards, likely more concealed, plus active jammers limiting cell signals. Systems indicate closed-circuit cameras with facial recognition at main entrances. Victor recognizes the technology from his security consultant days, spotting the subtle indicators of a system designed for far more than normal event security. Whitfield's running military-grade surveillance at a charity dinner, he observes quietly to Malcolm. "That seem like overkill to you?" The brothers separate to cover more ground, with Malcolm engaging potential donors while Victor and Sophia implement their true purpose. Using hotel service passages identified in building plans Felix obtained, they strategically place microtransmitters in locations where private conversations might occur. Ray creates brief distractions when needed, his imposing size and deliberate clumsiness drawing attention away from his teammates' movements. Their first breakthrough comes in Whitfield's private suite, where Sophia, posing as event staff delivering champagne, overhears fragments of conversation about accelerated timetables and inventory concerns before being dismissed. More significantly, Victor discovers concealed doorways in several locations, including behind a bookshelf in Whitfield's office and beneath the service elevator, suggesting passages not shown on official building plans. Meanwhile, back at Tanya's home, Layla's memory provides another crucial piece. While looking through photographs of Whitfield's security team published in the society pages of the Oakridge Chronicle, she freezes, pointing to a man standing behind Whitfield. "That's him." That's one of the men who took Elijah. The man is identified as James Mercer, former military and Whitfield's head of special security operations. Felix's background check reveals Mercer's dishonorable discharge from special forces and subsequent work with private military contractors in conflict zones before joining Whitfield Enterprises 3 years ago. By midnight, the gala reaches its peak with Whitfield's keynote address about his foundation's work, creating opportunities for underprivileged communities. Victor watches the performance with growing disgust as Whitfield speaks passionately about protecting vulnerable children, while Felix simultaneously breaks into Whitfield's private network from the van, exploiting security vulnerabilities to access encrypted files. "Found something," Felix announces over the secure channel. Coordinates for what they're calling delivery points. Tonight's coordinates match the loading dock at the Lakeside Industrial Complex. Adding to their intelligence, Sheriff Blackwell discreetly provides patrol schedules showing deliberate gaps in coverage around the industrial complex, along with information about surveillance blind spots. This wasn't easy to get, Blackwell had told Victor during their brief meeting in a supermarket parking lot. Someone's manipulating assignments from inside the department, creating windows where certain areas have zero coverage. Been happening for months, always the same locations, always on specific dates. The conspiracy's scope becomes clearer when Tanya discovers a hidden notebook in Elijah's room, concealed inside a hollowed-out science textbook. The meticulously organized notes document a disturbing pattern. Children and teenagers, primarily from low-income and minority neighborhoods, reported missing, quickly classified as runaways with minimal investigation, their cases effectively buried by administrative procedures and official indifference. Elijah had color-coded cases by neighborhood, revealing stark disparities in how missing persons were handled depending on race and socioeconomic status. The evening's plan faces unexpected complications when one of Whitfield's security guards notices Ray photographing restricted areas of the hotel. Ray creates an improvised distraction by starting an argument with another guest, allowing Victor to access Whitfield's private office during the commotion. Inside, he discovers shipping manifests for containers leaving Oakridge port the following morning, officially carrying manufacturing equipment to overseas destinations. More alarmingly, he overhears Whitfield speaking privately to Officer Harrington in the adjacent room. The schedule needs to accelerate. Move everything tonight. Our friends are concerned about increased attention. Take care of any loose ends immediately. Unaware of the listening devices, they continue discussing contingencies and cleanup protocols for what they call the operation. As the Brotherhood extracts from the gala, Felix intercepts encrypted communications between Mercer and his security team, confirming their worst fears. Elijah is alive, but scheduled for transport within 6 hours as part of what they call priority merchandise. The race against time intensifies as they realize they have until dawn to locate and rescue the boy before he disappears into an international trafficking network, with connections powerful enough to control local law enforcement and neutralize any investigation. Victor gathers the entire Brotherhood at their clubhouse, including members released from jail thanks to Malcolm's legal intervention. "This is bigger and more dangerous than we initially thought," he tells them grimly. "I need everyone to understand what we're up against and make their own choice. This isn't just about finding one missing boy anymore. We're looking at systematic abduction and trafficking protected by people with badges and political power. Anyone who wants out, now's the time. No judgment, no one leaves." Instead, they begin planning the most dangerous operation in the Brotherhood's history, infiltrating the industrial complex to rescue Elijah and gather enough evidence to bring down the entire operation. Knowing the consequences of failure would be severe. "They'll kill us if we're caught," David says quietly. "They'll call it self-defense, and no one will question it." Victor nods, acknowledging the reality they face. "That's why we need to be ghosts, in and out before they know we're there." As they finalize preparations, Tanya insists on participating despite their objections. "He's my son," she says with quiet determination. "I'm coming with you, and that's not negotiable." Her resolve silences further debate as the Brotherhood prepares for what could be their final ride. Midnight oil burns in the Brotherhood's clubhouse as they finalize their rescue plan, the atmosphere tense with preoperative focus. Maps of the industrial complex spread across tables show approach routes, security positions, and potential extraction paths based on satellite imagery and building plans obtained through Malcolm's legal contacts. Felix monitors police band radio and security frequencies, while members check equipment. Night vision devices purchased from hunting supply stores, encrypted communication systems, bolt cutters, and basic medical supplies for potential injuries. Thermal imaging shows multiple heat signatures inside the main warehouse, Felix reports, studying drone footage on his laptop. At least 15 warm bodies in the east section, plus what look like sentries at regular intervals around the perimeter. Victor divides the Brotherhood into 3 teams: infiltration, perimeter security, and extraction. Tanya will remain with Felix in the communications van, providing real-time coordination and ready to contact Malcolm if legal intervention becomes necessary. "Remember, this is recovery only," Victor emphasizes to the group. "We get Elijah and any other captives we find, gather what evidence we can, and extract immediately. We're not soldiers or police. Our advantage is they don't expect us." The teams are preparing to depart when headlights flood the parking lot outside, followed by the distinctive sound of police cruisers and tactical vehicles surrounding the building. "Brotherhood, this is Sheriff Blackwell," a voice announces through a megaphone. "The building is surrounded. Exit with your hands visible or we will enter by force." Stunned by the betrayal, the Brotherhood scrambles to conceal evidence of their investigation as Victor signals for calm. "We follow procedure," he instructs. "No resistance, no sudden movements. Malcolm will have us out within hours." As they exit with hands raised, the scene becomes chaotic. Sheriff Blackwell personally handcuffs Victor while dozens of officers secure other members. News vans arrive simultaneously, capturing footage of what the breaking reports call a major drug trafficking bust involving the notorious Thunderbolt Brotherhood motorcycle gang. At the police station, Brotherhood members are separated and processed on various charges from conspiracy to criminal organization activity. Victor finds himself in an interrogation room facing Sheriff Blackwell and two unfamiliar men in suits. "You've disappointed me, Calloway," Blackwell says, sliding a folder across the table. "I thought you might actually be trying to turn your life around, but it seems leopards don't change their spots." The folder contains surveillance photos showing Brotherhood members apparently meeting with known drug dealers at various locations around Oakridge. Victor immediately recognizes the images as sophisticated forgeries, with heads seamlessly placed on different bodies and backgrounds digitally altered. "This is fabricated evidence," he states calmly, despite his internal rage, "just like what was used to convict me before." Blackwell's expression remains impassive. "We have confidential informants, electronic communications, and physical evidence connecting your organization to narcotics distribution. The prosecutor is preparing charges that will put all of you away for decades." However, he continues with a meaningful pause. "Certain arrangements could be made for reduced sentences if you provide information about your suppliers and distribution network." Victor realizes the trap. They want him to fabricate confessions and implicate others to strengthen their fraudulent case. "I want my lawyer," he responds, refusing further engagement. "Malcolm Calloway, attorney at law." Blackwell smirks. "Your brother has been notified, but I wouldn't count on fraternal loyalty. His political aspirations won't survive association with a drug trafficking case." As Victor is returned to a holding cell, an unexpected development unfolds in the station lobby. Catherine Williams arrives with cameras, accompanied by religious leaders from Oakridge's black churches, community organizers, and dozens of residents from neighborhoods where Brotherhood members had been asking questions about missing children. "We demand transparency in the arrests of citizens who were actively investigating child disappearances ignored by this department," Williams announces to assembled reporters. Multiple witnesses state these individuals were working to locate Layla Freeman, a missing 12-year-old boy whose case received minimal police attention. The protest grows as community members share stories of other missing children and teenagers whose cases were rapidly classified as runaways despite evidence suggesting otherwise. Meanwhile, Tanya and remaining Brotherhood members receive anonymous text messages with coordinates and a simple instruction: "Riverside Warehouse, tonight. Look for the red door." Felix, who avoided arrest by escaping through the clubhouse's rear exit during the raid, traces the message to a burner phone purchased with cash that morning, unable to identify the sender. More concerning, he discovers troubling connections between Sheriff Blackwell's campaign and Whitfield Enterprises through financial records, showing major donations through various shell companies. Blackwell's election campaign was bankrolled by Whitfield, he tells Tanya over a secure channel. 90% of his funding came through companies that all trace back to Whitfield's subsidiaries. At the police station, the detained Brotherhood members face unexpected developments. When separated for questioning, Victor is approached by Deputy Maria Rivera, a young officer who slips him a note while pretending to adjust his handcuffs. The message is direct: "Cameras disabled for 60 seconds. Listen quickly. Not everyone here is corrupt. Some of us have been gathering evidence against Daniels, Harrington, and others for months. Your investigation is onto something real. Help is coming. Trust the blackout." Before Victor can respond, Rivera leaves. Within an hour, the station experiences a complete power failure, backup generators mysteriously failing to activate. In the darkness and confusion, Victor finds his cell door opening, with Rivera whispering, "Move now. Follow the exit signs. Vehicle waiting in the alley." Similar scenarios play out for other detained Brotherhood members, who find themselves guided through the darkened station by officers working silently against their corrupt colleagues. Outside, they're hurried into unmarked vans and driven to Malcolm's office building, where the attorney waits with clear agitation. "Do you have any idea the professional suicide I'm committing right now?" he demands as Brotherhood members file into his conference room. "Harboring fugitives, interfering with police operations." I could be disbarred. Despite his complaints, Malcolm has prepared legal motions challenging the arrests on constitutional grounds and highlighting evidence tampering visible in the surveillance photos. As the group reorganizes, Layla provides another breakthrough. Looking at city maps while adults discuss strategy, she suddenly points to an area near the river. "Elijah showed me this before. He said the bad people use tunnels under the city to move without being seen. He followed them once but got scared and ran away." This revelation shifts their understanding completely. Felix pulls up historical city plans, revealing an extensive network of maintenance tunnels, abandoned subway sections, and underground utility corridors connecting key properties throughout Oakridge, including direct links between Whitfield's various holdings. "That's why we couldn't track movements between buildings," Victor realizes. "They're not using vehicles or streets at all. They're moving underground, completely invisible to conventional surveillance." With time running out before dawn, the Brotherhood faces a critical decision. Attempt to infiltrate the industrial complex as originally planned, or follow their anonymous tipster's direction to the Riverside warehouse. The factory complex remains their strongest lead based on evidence, but the anonymous message suggests inside knowledge they can't ignore. Ultimately, they decide to split their diminished forces, with Victor leading a team to investigate the underground network while Felix coordinates from Malcolm's office, monitoring both operations and maintaining communication with their unexpected allies within the police department. What began as a search for one missing child has evolved into exposure of a criminal conspiracy reaching into Oakridge's power structure, with the Brotherhood now fugitives racing against time to save lives and clear their names. The night wraps around Victor like a familiar cloak, as he leads his team through the abandoned subway entrance hidden behind collapsed construction barriers near the riverfront. Tanya insisted on joining despite multiple objections, her determination unshakable. "I've spent my entire life being told to trust the system while watching it fail. People who look like us," she had argued, when Victor attempted to dissuade her. "I'm tired of waiting for someone else to protect my family." The infiltration team moves carefully down crumbling concrete stairs, flashlight beams revealing decades of neglect in the abandoned transit project that was supposed to revitalize Oakridge before funding disappeared amid corruption allegations 20 years earlier. Felix guides them remotely using digitized maintenance plans from Malcolm's legal archives, where records from a lawsuit against the city provided detailed underground maps never meant for public access. The main junction should be 50 yards ahead, his voice crackles through their earpieces. That connects to utility corridors running under downtown, including a branch toward the industrial complex. Meanwhile, a second Brotherhood team, led by Marcus, investigates the Riverside warehouse, approaching the mysterious red door mentioned in the anonymous tip. The two operations proceed in parallel, connected by Felix's coordination from his improvised command center. Beneath the city, Victor's team encounters their first challenge when sections of the tunnel appear recently renovated, with modern security doors and surveillance equipment contrasting sharply with the decaying infrastructure. "This isn't abandoned," Ray whispers, examining a keycard reader. "Someone's been maintaining and upgrading these tunnels." Felix remotely bypasses the first security door by hacking into its electronic lock, but warns that subsequent breaches will likely trigger alerts. "They'll know someone's in the system after the second or third override," he cautions. "Move quickly once you're through." The team advances deeper into the labyrinthine passages, discovering disturbing signs of regular use: fresh scuff marks on floors, modern lighting systems, and ventilation equipment. At a major junction, they face a decision between three branching tunnels. Sophia identifies subtle indicators painted on walls, color-coded symbols that appear to designate different routes. "These are like hospital directional systems," she explains, recognizing patterns from her social work background. Red likely indicates restricted areas or security. Blue typically means general access. Yellow often designates specialized functions or caution zones. They choose the red path, reasoning it would lead to the operation's core rather than support areas. Their progress slows when they encounter the first serious obstacle, a flooded section where water has breached the tunnel walls. The knee-deep water forces them to move carefully, minimizing noise while protecting their equipment from damage. As they wade through the murky water, Tanya suddenly freezes. "I heard something," she whispers. The team falls silent, listening intently until they detect faint echoes of voices ahead, accompanied by mechanical sounds. Bypassing another security door leads them to a shocking discovery: a large chamber converted into what can only be described as a processing facility. From their concealed position, they observe people in medical scrubs examining, photographing, and categorizing a group of sedated teenagers laid out on gurneys. "They're being inventoried," Sophia whispers with horror, recognizing the dehumanizing process from human trafficking cases she'd encountered professionally. Cataloging physical characteristics, taking medical samples, probably checking for tracking devices or phones. The team documents everything using concealed cameras while planning their next move. Felix reports that facial recognition software has identified several of the unconscious teens as matching missing persons reports from Elijah's notebook, including Rosa Martinez, whose disappearance had particularly concerned Elijah. Security becomes increasingly sophisticated as they advance deeper into the facility, forcing them to use maintenance ducts and service passages to avoid detection. Motion sensors and surveillance cameras cover main corridors, but Felix identifies patterns in the security sweeps that allow brief windows for movement. The team's experience navigating hostile environments proves valuable as they methodically infiltrate further into the complex. In a secure room requiring Victor's most advanced hacking skills to access, they finally discover what appears to be a holding area for priority shipments. Through reinforced glass panels, they observe approximately 20 chambers resembling medical isolation rooms, each containing a sedated individual being monitored by medical equipment. Guards with military-grade weapons patrol the corridor separating the observation area from the containment cells. Victor spots Elijah in one of the chambers, apparently unconscious but alive, according to the monitors displaying his vital signs. "Found him," Victor whispers into his communicator. "East Quadrant, high security section. At least 15 armed guards between us and him. Need alternative access." As Felix searches for another approach route, a guard notices movement in their supposedly secure observation position. Alarms blare throughout the facility as the team is forced to retreat, abandoning their careful infiltration for a more direct approach. During their tactical withdrawal, they encounter James Mercer, Whitfield's security chief, leading a response team through the tunnels. "Seal all exits," Mercer orders into his radio. "Full containment protocol. No one leaves, especially not the premium inventory." The ensuing confrontation forces the Brotherhood to use diversionary tactics, splitting up to confuse pursuers, while creating an opportunity for a smaller team to circle back toward Elijah's position. As they navigate the chaos, Tanya recognizes several of the security personnel as Oakridge police officers in different uniforms, confirming the depth of corruption within local law enforcement. Their escape route is cut off when Officer Harrington arrives with reinforcements, trapping Victor's group in a maintenance bay. "I always knew you'd be trouble, Calloway," Harrington says, weapon raised. "Should have stayed in prison where you belong. Instead, you'll be disappearing permanently, along with your friends." The standoff takes an unexpected turn when Victor recognizes one of the armed guards as Michael Chains Peterson, his former cellmate who had protected him during his first difficult months in prison. Their eyes meet briefly, a moment of recognition passing between them. When Harrington orders his men to secure the intruders, Peterson deliberately misinterprets the command, creating confusion that allows Victor to access a maintenance hatch. "Prisoner transfer protocols," Peterson mutters to Victor as he passes. "East Service Elevator, bypass code 6329. You saved my life inside. Consider this repayment." The team exploits this unexpected advantage, fighting their way toward the service elevator, while Felix remotely triggers fire suppression systems in other areas to create further distractions. They reach Elijah's containment area during the height of the chaos, finding him heavily sedated but responsive when Tanya calls his name. Along with Elijah, they manage to free 7 other captives in nearby chambers, including Rosa Martinez. Their escape through the underground network becomes a desperate race as facility security reorganizes, setting up blockades at known exit points. Felix guides them to an abandoned maintenance shaft that emerges 3 blocks from the original entry point, leading to an equipment storage yard for the city's public works department. As they surface with the rescued captives, they find themselves in the middle of a confused standoff. Media vans respond to anonymous tips about breaking news at the riverfront, arriving simultaneously with police cruisers answering calls about intruders in restricted municipal areas. The rescued teenagers, still groggy from sedation, are visible evidence of something sinister happening beneath Oakridge's streets, while Brotherhood members emerge as their protectors rather than the criminals portrayed in official accounts. Catherine Williams' news crew begins broadcasting live before police can establish control of the scene, creating a public record that cannot be easily suppressed or manipulated as medical teams arrive to treat the victims. In the confusion, Victor makes eye contact with Sheriff Blackwell across the chaotic scene, each man silently acknowledging that the next moves will determine the future of Oakridge and everyone involved in uncovering its darkest secrets. Dawn breaks over Oakridge as ambulances transport the rescued teenagers to County General Hospital, their slow procession followed by news vans capturing every moment. Catherine Williams broadcasts live from the scene, her experienced voice lending gravity to the unfolding story. We're witnessing what appears to be the rescue of multiple missing teenagers from an underground facility beneath Oakridge. First responders report the young people were found sedated and prepared for what sources describe as transport to unknown locations. The broadcast cuts between medical teams treating disoriented victims and Brotherhood members being questioned by state police officers called in by Sheriff Blackwell, who cited potential conflicts of interest within his department. Elijah regains consciousness in the hospital, immediately asking for his mother and sister. When Tanya embraces him, he weakly explains his actions through an oxygen mask. "I had to get caught. It was the only way to find Rosa." His revelation stuns everyone. After discovering his friend's disappearance connected to suspicious activities at the abandoned factory, Elijah had deliberately placed himself in danger, carrying concealed recording devices and tracking beacons he created using modified electronics. "They didn't check kids thoroughly," he explains, with unexpected clarity despite his weakened state. "Adults get searched, but they just drug kids and process them. I hid things they didn't find." From beneath the bandage on his ankle, he removes a micro SD card concealed in a homemade skin-colored silicone pouch. "Everything's here. Conversations, faces, locations. I recorded everything after they took me." The hospital room falls silent as Felix transfers the data to a secure laptop, revealing hours of damning evidence. Despite heavy sedation, Elijah had maintained enough awareness to activate his recording devices at critical moments, capturing conversations implicating Mayor Wilson alongside Whitfield and corrupt officers. Discussion of processing procedures, client requirements, and international transport protocols leaves no doubt about the operation's nature. Most disturbingly, casual mentions of merchandise loss rates and replacement acquisition reveal the traffickers' complete dehumanization of their victims. The recordings spread rapidly across social media, despite attempts to suppress them, overwhelm content moderation systems, and render conventional damage control ineffective. Within hours, hashtags including number Oakridge trafficking and number corruption exposed trend nationally, bringing intense external scrutiny to what had previously remained a local story. Sheriff Blackwell holds an emergency press conference, his carefully chosen words revealing little while promising thorough investigation of all allegations and full cooperation with state and federal authorities. When pressed about officers implicated in the recordings, he cites ongoing investigation protocols that prevent commenting on personnel matters. As reporters persist, his final statement reveals subtle positioning. This department will follow evidence wherever it leads, regardless of positions or connections of those involved. The Brotherhood faces renewed legal challenges when officers Daniels and Harrington arrest Victor and 4 others on charges including trespassing, breaking and entering, assault on security personnel, and interference with police operations. Malcolm immediately files emergency motions challenging the arrests, arguing that citizens who rescued kidnapping victims from criminal conspiracy cannot be prosecuted for necessary actions taken during said rescue when official channels were compromised. While legal battles unfold in courtrooms, the wider community mobilizes. When Brotherhood members are transported to county jail, hundreds of protesters surround the police station demanding their release. Signs reading "Heroes Not Criminals" and "Justice for Our Children" appear alongside Black Lives Matter and End Corruption Now banners. The demonstration remains peaceful, but grows hourly as community organizers coordinate support through churches, neighborhood associations, and social media networks. Pressure increases when Felix ensures Elijah's evidence spreads across multiple platforms, creating redundancies that prevent complete suppression. The recordings include particularly damning footage of Mayor Wilson discussing operational security with Whitfield and specifying which police officers were reliable for special assignments versus those who asked too many questions. Their conversation includes references to containing the Freeman problem and making examples when necessary, clearly identifying Elijah as a specific target rather than a random victim. Local television stations initially approached the story cautiously, citing unverified allegations, until Catherine Williams airs an exclusive interview with Deputy Rivera, her face obscured and voice altered, detailing the systematic corruption she witnessed within the department. Officers who questioned certain procedures or refused special assignments were transferred to dead-end positions or faced manufactured disciplinary actions, she reveals. Those who cooperated received promotions, overtime opportunities, and protection from internal affairs investigations. Public opinion shifts dramatically when Preston Whitfield holds a hastily arranged press conference, appearing composed in an expensive suit as he portrays himself as the victim of malicious allegations by criminal elements. His statement includes subtle racial coding, referring to certain troubled neighborhoods and historically problematic communities, while describing the Brotherhood as thugs, masquerading as community advocates. He announces a defamation lawsuit against the Brotherhood, Catherine Williams, and the Oakridge Chronicle, claiming damages to his reputation and business interests. The performance might have been effective in previous eras, but falls flat against the backdrop of Elijah's recordings and testimony from multiple victims. The situation escalates beyond local control when Governor Reynolds establishes a special investigation task force with authority to supersede local jurisdiction, temporarily removing certain powers from Oakridge officials pending review. State police secure evidence from multiple locations while federal agencies, including the FBI and Department of Homeland Security, begin parallel investigations into interstate and international trafficking aspects. As authorities establish perimeters around Whitfield properties, security camera footage captures company employees destroying documents at multiple sites, adding obstruction of justice to the growing list of potential charges. During a private moment in Elijah's hospital room, protected by Brotherhood members despite their legal jeopardy, the boy reveals his most significant discovery. The evidence everybody's seeing isn't everything. I hid the most important files separately. With trembling hands, he draws a map showing a location beneath his school where he concealed a waterproof container holding storage devices. The accounting records are there, he explains, his young face showing determination beyond his years. Every transaction, account number, and client. I found their backup server at the warehouse and downloaded everything before they caught me. This revelation changes the Brotherhood's priorities, as they realize Elijah remains in danger until this final evidence reaches federal authorities. Whitfield's organization, already desperate and increasingly cornered, would take extreme measures to prevent financial records from exposing the entire network of collaborators, clients, and facilitators extending far beyond Oakridge. Victor organizes rotating security details for Elijah's room despite hospital administration's objections, while Felix establishes surveillance countermeasures against potential electronic monitoring. What began as a missing person case has evolved into exposure of a criminal enterprise with national implications, placing the Brotherhood at the center of a storm they never anticipated when they answered a frightened little girl's plea for help. Night falls over County General Hospital as the Brotherhood maintains their protective vigil around Elijah's room, their presence tolerated by hospital administration only after Malcolm obtained an emergency court order citing credible threats to a material witness in ongoing federal investigations. Felix's security systems monitor all approaches to the pediatric ward, while Brotherhood members rotate positions, maintaining constant surveillance despite their exhaustion. The first infiltration attempt comes shortly before midnight, when a man in maintenance coveralls approaches with an access badge that Felix's facial recognition system identifies as belonging to an employee currently on vacation. Security intercepts him in the service corridor, discovering a syringe containing a lethal dose of potassium chloride concealed in his tool belt. 2 hours later, a more sophisticated attempt involves actual medical personnel attempting to transfer Elijah to radiology for emergency scans, with paperwork bearing forged signatures from his attending physician. The Vigilant Brotherhood blocks this approach as well, confirming with the doctor directly that no such orders exist. By dawn, 4 separate infiltration attempts have been thwarted, each more elaborate than the previous, suggesting increasing desperation from Whitfield's organization. Governor Reynolds' intervention brings additional state police protection, but Victor remains skeptical about trusting any official security after witnessing the extent of corruption within local agencies. "We don't know how far this reaches," he tells the core Brotherhood members during a strategy session in an empty waiting room. "Until federal authorities secure Elijah's financial evidence, we can't assume anyone's completely clean." Complications multiply when hospital systems experience coordinated technical failures. Patient record systems crash, displaying ransomware messages demanding Bitcoin payments. Security cameras cycle through pre-programmed loops rather than showing live footage. And communication systems experience interference, rendering them unreliable. Felix recognizes these as sophisticated cyber attacks designed to create confusion rather than actual systemic damage. They're creating distractions, he explains, while working to counter the intrusions. Standard penetration technique. Overwhelm defenders with multiple minor problems while preparing the actual strike. His assessment proves accurate when power to the entire hospital fails simultaneously, emergency generators mysteriously malfunctioning seconds after activation. In the darkness, Brotherhood members form a human perimeter around Elijah's bed, using night vision equipment borrowed from Malcolm's hunting enthusiast partners at his law firm. The anticipated assault comes from an unexpected direction, through the ceiling tiles, as professionally equipped mercenaries in tactical gear breach from the floor above. The ensuing confrontation in the darkened hospital room becomes a desperate close-quarters defense, with Brotherhood members fighting to protect Elijah while minimizing collateral damage in a medical environment. Their defensive position nearly collapses until Sophia triggers the emergency oxygen shutoff and fire suppression systems, filling the corridors with obscuring chemical suppressant that confuses attackers' thermal imaging. Taking advantage of the chaos, Victor and Ray evacuate Elijah through service passages mapped during their earlier security planning, meeting a transport team at an employee entrance loading dock. Tanya arrives with Layla, having been secured at a safe house until the hospital extraction team confirms success. As they prepare to transfer to a more defensible location, surveillance footage from the hospital parking structure appears on Felix's monitor, showing Officer Harrington meeting with Mayor Wilson's security detail, both clearly coordinating with the mercenary team that had just retreated from the failed abduction attempt. More disturbing, Tanya discovers while reviewing hospital admission records that several previous trafficking victims who attempted to report their experiences died from unexpected complications during treatment, with death certificates signed by the same 3 doctors despite varying causes. They have people inside the medical system, she realizes with horror. They've been eliminating witnesses through apparently natural medical emergencies. With the hospital compromised and local safe houses potentially exposed, Malcolm offers his rarely used country property 30 miles outside Oakridge, a modernized farmhouse on 40 acres of wooded land, originally purchased as a potential retirement investment. The Brotherhood relocates all rescued victims to this temporary shelter, establishing defensive perimeters, while Felix sets up secure communications and surveillance systems. Sheriff Blackwell contacts Victor through Deputy Rivera, requesting a secure meeting at a neutral location. Things are accelerating faster than anticipated. Blackwell explains when they rendezvous at an abandoned fire observation tower in state forest land. Federal warrants are being prepared, but Whitfield's people are destroying evidence systematically across multiple jurisdictions. They've initiated what appears to be a scorched earth protocol. Victor remains guarded, still uncertain of Blackwell's true allegiance. Why tell me this? Why not coordinate with the federal task force? Blackwell's response is measured, because someone's feeding information to Whitfield from inside federal channels. 3 safe houses were compromised within hours of their locations being logged in official systems. I need to know where you're keeping the Freeman boy, but through channels I control. After careful consideration, Victor provides approximate rather than exact locations, maintaining operational security while establishing limited cooperation with Blackwell's faction within law enforcement. Back at Malcolm's property, Felix detects systematic erasure of digital evidence across county systems, records disappearing from government databases, surveillance footage being corrupted, and communication logs vanishing from servers. They're not just covering tracks, he concludes after analyzing the pattern. They're executing a predetermined containment protocol designed to eliminate all evidence of the operation. The situation reaches critical mass when Elijah reveals his most significant evidence. Using his self-taught programming skills, he had not only photographed account numbers and transaction records, but successfully extracted the complete financial database showing money transfers to offshore accounts, including payments to officials, police officers, medical personnel, and transportation contractors. The documentation creates a comprehensive map of the entire criminal enterprise, extending far beyond Oakridge to operations in multiple states and international connections. As the Brotherhood prepares to transfer this crucial evidence to trusted federal contacts established through Malcolm's legal network, perimeter sensors detect approaching vehicles from multiple directions. Surveillance drones deployed by Felix confirm their worst fears. Professional mercenaries, with military-grade weapons, establishing tactical positions around the property. Thermal imaging shows at least 30 attackers methodically surrounding the farmhouse, cutting off escape routes and establishing firing positions with overlapping fields of view. This isn't a capture operation, Marcus observes grimly, recognizing the deployment pattern from his military background. This is an elimination protocol. They're not planning to leave survivors or witnesses. With communications jammed and reinforcements at least 30 minutes away, even if messages could get through, the Brotherhood faces its greatest challenge: protecting Elijah, his evidence, and the other rescued victims against a superior force with deadly intent. As they fortify their position and distribute the limited weapons available, Tanya is struck by a stray round while moving Layla to a more protected location. Victor faces an impossible choice: pursue the attackers who are now breaching the outer perimeter, or stay to treat Tanya's potentially life-threatening wound. The decision will determine not only their immediate survival, but the possibility of exposing the entire trafficking network before all evidence can be destroyed. With the compound beginning to burn from incendiary rounds and injured Brotherhood members defending increasingly constricted territory, Victor implements a desperate contingency plan. Felix uploads Elijah's financial evidence to a timed release protocol that will automatically distribute the files to law enforcement agencies, media outlets, and transparency organizations worldwide, if not stopped within 12 hours. As they evacuate through a concealed storm drainage system beneath the property, Victor takes a final look at the burning farmhouse that served as their last defensive position, knowing that whatever happens in the coming hours will permanently change Oakridge and everyone involved in uncovering its darkest secrets. 3 months later, Victor Calloway stands on the porch of a modest suburban home in an undisclosed location, the late afternoon sun warming his face as he watches children playing in a nearby park. His appearance has changed. the leather vest replaced by a casual button-down shirt, his beard trimmed neatly, and reading glasses perched on his nose, giving him an almost professorial look. The door opens behind him, and Tanya Freeman emerges, walking with a slight limp, but otherwise recovered from the wounds she suffered during what media now calls the Oakridge incident. "They're settling in well," she says, nodding toward Layla and Elijah playing basketball with neighborhood children, their identities protected within the witness protection program that has become their new reality. Elijah starts advanced computer science classes next week. The program director says he's never seen a 12-year-old with his aptitude. Victor smiles, watching the boy who triggered the collapse of a criminal empire that had operated with impunity for years. "How about you? Adjusting to the new normal?" Tanya's expression reflects the complex journey of the past months. "Some days are harder than others. I miss my nursing job, my friends, our community. But knowing what we helped expose, the lives we saved by speaking up." She pauses, finding the right words. "There's peace in that, even with everything we lost." Inside, photo albums and news clippings document the aftermath of their escape from the burning compound. Elijah's evidence, distributed globally through Felix's timed release protocol when they couldn't reach the cancellation point during their frantic evacuation, had proven even more significant than anticipated. The financial records exposed trafficking networks operating in 17 states, with connections to officials in 12 countries. Investigations launched simultaneously across multiple jurisdictions, preventing the kind of localized containment that had previously protected the operation. Preston Whitfield was found dead in his cell 2 weeks after his arrest, officially ruled a suicide, though rumors persisted about powerful associates ensuring his silence. 12 Oakridge police officers faced federal indictments for crimes ranging from evidence tampering to direct participation in trafficking operations. Mayor Wilson resigned facing corruption charges, while dozens of officials in various departments were implicated in accepting bribes to overlook regulatory violations or expedite paperwork without proper scrutiny. Most significant for Victor personally, all Brotherhood members received formal pardons for prior convictions after evidence emerged proving many had been deliberately framed by corrupt officers to neutralize potential threats or create leverage for coercion. Felix's methodical investigation into judicial records revealed a pattern of selective prosecution targeting individuals who noticed suspicious activities around Whitfield properties or questioned police procedures in certain neighborhoods. "Have you heard from the others?" Tanya asks as they move inside, where framed photographs show Brotherhood members at various stages of their journey. Victor nods, picking up a recent letter. Marcus is working with veterans organizations, identifying trafficking indicators and creating intervention protocols. Ray and Sophia are establishing a foundation for survivors using the settlement money. David's speaking at schools about recognizing recruitment tactics. Everyone's found their own way to continue the fight. The most unexpected development had emerged during federal depositions. Sheriff Thomas Blackwell was revealed to be an undercover FBI agent who had spent 3 years infiltrating the corruption network after previous investigations mysteriously collapsed. Unable to act without risking his cover and compromising the larger operation, he had been documenting evidence while searching for external allies who could trigger intervention beyond Whitfield's influence. "He could have just told us," Victor says, still processing this revelation. Tanya shakes her head. "Would you have trusted him? Would any of us?" He needed authentic reactions to maintain his cover, even while trying to help from the shadows. Their conversation pauses as Elijah enters, now carrying the confidence of someone who discovered his purpose early in life. The trauma remains visible in quiet moments, but therapy and the knowledge that his actions saved dozens of lives have helped him process the experience. "The new tracking system's online," he announces, opening his laptop to display a sophisticated database. It's already identified 3 potential patterns in missing persons reports across county lines. What began as a child's curious documentation has evolved into a formal monitoring program adopted by advocacy organizations nationwide. Elijah's methodical approach to evidence gathering became a template for community oversight of police departments, with civilian review boards implementing similar documentation protocols to identify patterns invisible within individual jurisdictions. Tanya's professional path transformed as well. Using her nursing background and personal experience, she founded an advocacy organization helping trafficking survivors navigate medical and legal systems, with particular focus on minority communities historically underserved by traditional support structures. The organization, funded partially by civil forfeiture, proceeds from Whitfield's seized assets, established offices in 5 cities within its first year. Victor's own journey took the most surprising turn when his wrongful conviction was officially expunged, leading to an offer he never expected, a position with a federal task force combating trafficking operations, specifically utilizing his unique perspective on how criminal networks exploit systemic vulnerabilities and community distrust of authorities. His acceptance required significant reflection, particularly about working within systems he had long viewed with suspicion. Sometimes, he tells Elijah as they review the tracking system together, the most effective change happens from unexpected positions, when people who understand problems firsthand gain the authority to implement solutions. As evening approaches, they prepare for a community celebration marking the anniversary of the rescue operation. The event will unite former adversaries who found common purpose through the crisis. Brotherhood members standing alongside reformed officers, community activists coordinating with federal agencies, and survivors reclaiming their voices after years of being silenced or disbelieved. A documentary crew will be present. Continuing the project, Catherine Williams began to ensure the lessons of Oakridge reach wider audiences and prevent similar operations from establishing elsewhere. Before departing, Victor checks news alerts on his phone, noting with satisfaction continuing investigations stemming from Elijah's evidence. The ripple effects extend beyond criminal prosecutions to policy reforms addressing vulnerabilities that enabled trafficking operations to flourish undetected. Improved missing persons protocols, eliminating racial and socio-economic disparities in response. Mandatory review processes for cases quickly classified as runaways, and community oversight mechanisms for law enforcement agencies operating in minority neighborhoods. At the celebration, cameras capture the moment when a reporter asks Layla the question that had intrigued the public since footage of her approaching the Brotherhood went viral. What made you run to those particular bikers for help? Why them instead of someone else at the fair? Her response, delivered with the simple wisdom of a child who sees truth more clearly than many adults, becomes the most shared quote of the year, appearing on everything from T-shirts to congressional testimony about community policing reform. Because sometimes the people everybody tells you to fear are the only ones brave enough to help, when the people everybody trusts are the ones you should really be afraid of. As twilight settles over their new community, Victor watches Tanya and her children laughing with friends who became family through shared struggle, reflecting on the unlikely journey that transformed a desperate plea for help into a movement for justice that continues to grow beyond anything they could have imagined. What has been your reaction to this story of unexpected heroes fighting against corruption? Have you ever witnessed someone stepping up to help in a situation where those officially responsible failed to act? Comment below with your thoughts on what makes someone truly heroic in today's world. If you found this story impactful, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more content that challenges perspectives and celebrates everyday courage. Share this with someone who might need a reminder that help sometimes comes from unexpected sources. Thank you for joining us today. And remember that the most powerful changes often begin with one person brave enough to speak truth when everyone else remains silent.